Hey y'all, we have the debut of a new WoW superhero. We have shenanigans involving Abilene Maverick and Paola the Colombian GOAT, and a hardcore match to determine who will hold the WoW Tag Team Championships. This is Steph and Kat Talk WoW.
Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs and the Ruben Studders. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape. Every one of us, I was kinda late. I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the fate, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate, gotta focus.
Hey y'all, welcome to a new episode of Steph and Cat Talk Wild, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. Of course, I'm your girl Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of HWP, HWP Extra, and co-creator of this fabulous show, Steph and Cat Talk Wild. Cat could not join us this weekend because she is either on her way back to or should be back in New York after her amazing panel about women's wrestling at Florida SuperCon. I want to send her a huge congratulations for that. And she is actually now that I think about it, she's on assignment. She's on assignment because TNA Slammiversary is taking place right now as we speak. And she is there representing NCAT We Trust for it. So big ups to her for that and for her just having a busy weekend in general. Forgive us for the lateness and the tardiness of this episode because she and I have both been busy between last weekend at Evolution and this weekend with her and her panel and doing Slammiversary. So this is why this episode is so late. But if you are watching live on any one of our platforms on YouTube or anything else, thank you so much for spending your time with me on this Sunday evening. So before we get into what took place in these last two episodes, not this episode that aired this weekend on WoW, but the last two episodes beforehand, we have to send a special congratulations and give a little bit of WoW news to WoW superheroes because they will have representation and a panel on women's wrestling at San Diego Comic Con next weekend, Friday, July the 25th. That is one of the biggest Comic Cons in the entire country, and I'm so happy that they get to participate in this sort of way to feature some of their superheroes like Miami Sweet Heat, the Carlson sisters, Paola Mayfield, Santana Garrett, executive producer and co-owner Jeannie Buss, and of course co-owner David McLean. And they will also be there to make a special announcement regarding the new season. So I cannot wait to hear whatever it is that they have to bestow upon us for us WoW fans, and I cannot wait to see, what's in store for us next. So big ups to them for having that spot at San Diego Comic Con to talk about their place in women's wrestling. And I think it's just so appropriate that this announcement would come out after one of the biggest and most high profile all female shows of the year. It's really cool to see all of this amazingness happening all at once. So big ups to the WoW crew for that. And of course, we'll be on the lookout and we will be talking about what the news is in the coming weeks as we get our episodes together. So, of course, I am here to discuss the two episodes called Hardcore Rivalry, which aired 2 weeks ago, and Nashville Knockout, which aired last week. And these episodes had a lot going on in them. There was a lot of action and a lot of storyline development going on in them. But either way, it is still very much interesting and very high powered energy for what was happening in these episodes. So, Hardcore Rivalry started with their first match, which was Katarina Jinx versus Kara Kai. I believe before this match took place, there was also a promo from Tormenta, who at the time was the number one contender for the Wild World Championship. And of course, she stated her piece talking about how ready she is for the opportunity. And I was so excited that she had this opportunity because me and Katrina have talked about a lot how we've wanted her to have like a fair shot at the Wild World title since we've started covering it. So it's really cool to see her get that opportunity. And later on this week, she and I will hopefully come back together and talk about what happened this weekend with her match against the Classmaster. So, before this match took place between Katarina Jinx and Karakai, Katarina decided to put some rumors to rest. She said, I heard this rumor going around, and I'm here to put it to rest. The rumor that Goldie and I have parted ways is not so. Goldie is with her companion Alexander the Grand for his championship dog show. I insisted she went, of course, but you see, we will be in this ring together, but until then, the hunt is on, and I will hold the prey. And funny enough, on commentary, because David had to go and make sure everything was in place for the hardcore match for the Wild Tag Team Championships later on in the night, Nigel had to hold down commentary by himself. And as a fellow commentator who's had to hold on a table by myself for like maybe a few minutes, I can understand how daunting that can be, but he definitely held down the fort because, of course, when assignments rises, you've got to rise to the occasion. And that's what Nigel did. So this match was really good. Both ladies traded different kicks as the match went on. As the match got started, they traded kicks back and forth to each other. Karakai actually ducked a kick attempt after being knocked down by Katarina for a 2 count, and then Karakai was lighting up Katarina with her martial arts strikes, and then she actually hit a hurricanrana and an arm bar, but then Katarina battled out with a body slam and then kicked her down and then threw her into the ring post. Um, and then she continued to attack Karakai's legs with a scorpion kick and a leg drop. And then she then scratched the back of Karakai with those cat claws of hers. And then she locked her in the mousetrap to a 2 count. Then Katarina locked in a rear chin lock to Kara, but then Kara elbowed her way out and then kicked Katarina again away. And then she had a clothesline and a kick series and a sling blade for a 2 count. This was a pretty resilient fight on the part of Katarina Jinx. I mean, not Katarina Jinx, but of Kara Kai. But she failed to hit a driver that kind of reminds you a lot of Priscilla Kelly, who was formerly known as Gigi Dolan, and a driver that she used to hit called the Gigi driver on NXT. But she failed to lock it in, and Katarina locked in a code of silence that reminded me a lot of Carmella slash Leia Vandale. And Karakai sadly had to tap out of that submission, and Katarina Jinx wound up winning the match. So, in the midst of Goldie Collins being gone, and then, of course, with them being separated from each other, here lately, it's like Goldie, I believe, either won her match from a few weeks ago and then Katarina won her match here. So it's just kind of like, okay, well, with them being separated, you sort of wonder if, even though they said that they will be back together in the ring again as Animal Instinct, it sort of makes you wonder if they might have to have a conversation of whether or not they should go for singles glory while also still being a tag team, or if, they should just separate as a whole and just focus on themselves, or just decide to go all in with the tag team stuff. Because here lately, when it comes to the tag team picture, whether it's the titles or not, they have been successful, but it's mainly been off and on. So I guess we'll just have to see how that goes. But either way, Katarina Jinx got the upper hand here, and it made me sad to see Karakai lose a match because she was gaining momentum. But I still miss her with Terror Strike, but I'm pretty sure somehow or another we'll get the answer to that. Um, or at least what'll happen with the Dojo Defenders within the next couple of episodes. But Katarina Jinx got the win here, and there was that. So after that match, we go backstage and we see Big Rigs and Bourbon, Jesse Jones, and Big Rig Betty having a talk about being attacked by Sprout Greens and Scout Parker. And they attack them with picket signs because here again, they're the environmentalists and they try to make it their business to protest against things that are against conserving the earth. And in the midst of them, getting in, as with them walking inside of the arena, they got into it with Big Rigs and Bourbon and they started beating them with signs. So now Big Rigs and Bourbon is trying to figure out how they can get revenge on them for that beatdown. Which leads into the next match between Scout Parker and Sprout Greens versus Chainsaw and Daisy Lane. And David on commentary was talking about merchandising Little Daisy and turning it into a doll to sell, which is par for the course for David because he is a businessman. But honestly, I'm not entirely sure if I would buy a Daisy, but I'm pretty sure there is a little girl who would want a little Daisy doll. So, it's for the children. It's not for me. I'm 31, so it's okay. So the rest of this match it was a pretty good tag team match, and it was definitely good to see Sprout and Scout back together as a tag team because here lately Scout had been on her own because Sprout was out, doing speeches about the environment and all of the above. And in the midst of this, Daisy and Sprout wound up starting the match off together, and Sprout kneed Daisy Lane and went for the waist, but then Daisy reversed it for a pin attempt, and then she locked in an arm twist and a drop toe hold to Sprout Greens. But then as Sprout got tossed into the wrong corner with Daisy Lane and Chainsaw, she winds up getting scared by her, like, oh my god, like I'm startled by her, which I get because Chainsaw is a very scary lady. Um, no insult intended, but she really is scary. So I could understand her trying to jump back and jump out of the way. So in the midst of this, she gets backflipped and splashed by Daisy Lane, who took advantage of the distraction. And then she got basement drop kick as well. And then Daisy Lane tagged in Chainsaw, who hit the Daisy bomb onto Sprout Greens. And then Sprout desperately moved out of the way and poked Chainsaw in the eyes in order to tag Scout Parker. And Scout kicked Chainsaw, but then the kicks didn't even phase Chainsaw at that point, and she grabbed Scout's leg and then knocked her down and then threw her around the ring. And then Chainsaw then tagged Daisy, who leg sweeped and elbowed Scout's stomach and then gave a drop kick to Scout as well. Then Sprout distracted Daisy, and then Scout hit a pump kick for a 1 count to Chainsaw, and then Scout hit a backbreaker to Daisy, and then tagged Sprout, Scout hit a backbreaker to Daisy, and then tagged Sprout, who hit an elbow, and then after Sprout and Scout basically had the upper hand onto Daisy Lane throughout the middle part of the match. Chainsaw broke up the count, and then Scout hit a forearm to Daisy, and then kicked her in the shoulder while holding her hands. But once Chainsaw finally got the hot tag, Chainsaw tossed Sprout and Scout about all over the ring, and then clotheslined Scout, and then tossed her out of the ring completely. And then Sprout got choke slammed and graveyard smashed by Daisy to a 1, 2, 3, and Chainsaw and Daisy Lane wound up winning the match. So this surprised me here. Not to say that the environmentalists aren't a good tag team, but it had been so long since I had seen them fight together that I was just kind of like, okay, well, how is this going to go? But they actually had a good system going around with attacking Daisy Lane and keeping her away from Chainsaw until, of course, the inevitable happened. And once the inevitable happens, you can't really stop it. And Chainsaw is like Thanos. She's inevitable. And once she comes in, no matter how many hits you give to her, it's not going to hurt her. She's only going to pick you up and show her strength, toss you about, and destroy you. And that's basically what happened. And they take great pleasure in that. So Chainsaw and Daisy Lane wound up getting the upper hand and winning here. So yeah, that's where we're at with those two, raising all kinds of hell. So In the midst of this, we also, after the match, we go backstage with Sibley Skulls, who helps to recap the story of Holly Swag joining the Fab Four after abandoning Big Rig Betty, her mother, and causing rifts within the Fab Four and Lindsay and Lori, which led them, of course, to the hardcore match that happened in this episode. And you could also see Holly Swag trying to talk Lana into, you know, scrambling and collecting hardcore weapons because she of course has had experience in matches like this. And then she asked Lana had she ever been in a street fight, and then she asked her, have you ever even fought in a holler before? And it just reminded me of how the first time I heard the word holler was when I was at Berea College in Kentucky, because that's a part of Appalachian life, and I was just like, oh my god, what is that? But it was just really funny to hear that on like a TV show, because you're just on a wrestling show at that, because you just don't really hear stuff like that unless you're in a specific area of the country. And that was just really funny to hear her say that to Lana Star, who just lives very fabulous and shut off life from everybody. And then Lindsay and Lori, of course, vowed to destroy Holly and Penelope Pink and get their titles back. So this led us to our main event, which was the hardcore match for the WoW Tag Team Championships between the Carlson sisters and Holly Swag and Penelope Pink with Lana Star. And as this match was going on, I was just asking myself, bruh, when are Lindsay and Lori gonna get rid of the pink and black? Because if they are no longer, aligned with Lana Star and the Fab Four, then why are they still wearing those colors? I want the green and orange back. Give me the Miami green and orange again, please. But that's just a nitpicky thing. The rest of the match was absolutely fantastic in terms of hardcore action. The match started with a brawl with the sisters and Holly and Penelope. There was eye raking and a DDT into the spiked jackets from Holly and Penelope, of course, playing dirty, but you really can't play dirty in a hardcore match. Holly was actually beating the twins with their jackets, and they tossed weapons in the ring on top of Lori. And it was almost like Holly was just throwing kendo sticks and throwing chairs on top of her. And I'm just like, so are you trying to bury her, or are you just trying to put the weapons in here? It was crazy. Then Lori actually got hit with a baseball bat by Penelope Pink. And then finally Lindsay and Lori got even with them with crutches. And kicks, and then the crowd was getting into it saying, use the chair, use the chair. And I was like, exactly. That is how you're supposed to chant. Then Lindsay and Lori actually hit a body slam onto Holly and Penelope Pink into the chairs, and they did a double drop toe hold to Holly into two chairs, and her face hit it. It was just really hard hitting, hardcore stuff in this hardcore match. Duh. Um, Lori then dropped Penelope's face into the chair and then hit Penelope with a sign. And then Penelope actually hit a spinning DDT from the chair to Lori. And then Holly tossed Lindsay into the chair, propped into the corner of the ring, and then popped her with a kendo stick. Lana wound up getting knocked down and spit on by Penelope by accident. It was hilarious. Then Lindsay actually hit Holly with a trash can top. A trash can lid rather, and then Lori stepped on Penelope's hair. Lindsay and Holly had a kendo stick fight. It was kind of like a sword fight, but it was really funny because kendo sticks are really my favorite weapons in all of wrestling. I just love it. Um, then Penelope hit a backflip from the ring apron onto Lori on the chair. And then Lori actually jumped up on the top rope into and landed on the trash can on top of Holly. And it was just all kinds of weapons and fists flying as the action traveled up the ramp and towards the Titantrons. And then they hit a double suplex to Holly on the ramp. And then Penelope hit Lindsay and Lori with a trash can top on the ramp as well. But then both teams wound up fighting each other so hard that Holly and Penelope actually speared Lindsay and Lori through the tables, which led to the match to come to a no contest, which means that Holly Swag and Penelope Pink are still the WoW Tag Team Champions because they fought and beat each other so bad that they could not continue the match. And so the ref ended. And of course, that was the end of everything of that episode, Hardcore Rivalry. It was a relatively short episode in terms of action, 3 matches there, but at the same time, whenever there's a stipulation match involved at the main event, they definitely big that up with their programming, so that was understandable. But I hated that Miami Sweet Heat didn't come out with the win here because I wanted them to get their titles back so bad just to spite, Holly Swag and just to show that they could survive without Lana Star and the backing of the Fab Four. So I don't know how much, or how this is going to play out over the next couple of weeks, but I would really just prefer it if Miami Sweet Heat would just get those titles off of Holly and Penelope because it's like they said, they really just don't deserve it and they don't know what it takes, for that. And considering Penelope is only out for herself 99.9% of the time anyway, I just want her to take them. I want them to take them, from those girls. So yeah, kind of getting a little bit tired of it, and I don't know how you can up the ante of their rivalry past a hardcore match, but I'm sure they'll come up with something. But that was the end of hardcore rivalry. Now, we move to our next episode, which was Nashville Knockout, which aired last weekend, Evolution weekend. And of course, they showed a recap of the hardcore match, which I did discuss. But the episode properly started with their first match with Holiday versus Santana Garrett. Santana is, of course, trying to climb back up the ladder to earn herself a championship opportunity after having dealt with her championship match being interrupted by Paola Mayfield and all of the above, so she's starting over the right way. Um, this was a very interesting matchup. That I think they said that they had fought each other once upon a time in Japan. They mentioned that on commentary, and I thought that was really cool that they had, a past interaction even though it might not have been on WoW, I was glad that they mentioned that on commentary. So a lot of this match was the quickness of Santana versus the power and brawn of Holiday. So Santana Garrett actually got the upper hand with a baseball slide, and then she ran into a leg drop on the apron by Holiday. Holiday was beating on her and trying to submit her out during the first half of the match. She kneed Santana in her back, and then she hung her upside down for a swing submission, as you can see on the screen right there. They both battled back and forth on the top turnbuckle, and um, Santana hit her back spring elbow, but then Holiday moved out of the way and locked in a Boston Crab in order to gain the upper hand. Basically, a lot of what Holiday was doing here in terms of her strategy was trying to break Santana down and keep her from moving so fast because her long limbs and everything about, her leg strength and everything is basically one of her greatest assets in the ring. And Holiday was trying to break her down. Then she reversed a Rana attempt from Santana into a liner, which wound up going into a 2 count. And then Santana battled out of a couple of covers that Holiday kept trying to put on her. And she broke out of a Darkness Falls attempt from Holiday and hit her Rise and Shine kip up and a super kick in order to win. So Santana Garrett wound up winning this hard fought match, even though it turned out to be really taxing for her, which she said in her promo afterward. She said, "Now I've got to get credit where credit is due. Holiday is a heck of a competitor. But tonight, with this victory, it puts me one step closer to a championship match. Now, I've done it once, and I know that I have everything that it takes to become the WoW World Champion again." And David, of course, was on commentary and he was saying she's just never gonna give up. She's never gonna give up. And if I were Santana, I wouldn't give up either. Because if I know that I can be champion after having been champion in the past again, then of course you want to taste that gold again. Of course you want to, go for your goals again and do it, another time, especially when every other chance you've had, you've been screwed out of. So, I mean, I completely get Santana. And I appreciate that she's trying to do it the right way as opposed to whining and crying about the system being against her like some people on WoW do. Genesis. So we're just gonna keep that going, and I big up Santana for that. So I hope she does get another opportunity down the road. The second match that we had on this episode was Fury versus the debuting Nikki Nashville. And it was funny because when Nikki came out there, they were making all kinds of references to country music and rock music when it came to Fury and Nikki. And in my head, I was like, it's a little bit of country, it's a little bit of rock and roll. And it was just really funny. So, of course, this is Nikki's WoW debut. And her persona sort of comes from the fact that she used to work at a country music bar in Nashville and she fell in love with the storytelling of country music. And as someone myself who dabbles in a lot of country music, the stories are really good when it's not just, my truck and my beer and everything else. The love stories can be really great, the family stories can be really great. Like, there's just a lot to country music that is very beautiful. Um, and I guess just to mention a couple of my favorites to a degree, I guess I really like Tim McGraw. I like Faith Hill. I like Shania Twain. Um, who else do I like? I like Shabuzi. I love Shabuzi. And I love, of course, Beyonce's Cowboy Carter album because I just saw her in concert and it was great. And yes, don't let anybody tell you that Beyonce didn't do a country album because she did. And it was really great. Um, and I definitely recommend it. And I like George Strait. So yeah, like country music is very beautiful when you really just give it a chance. And I love Reba McEntire as well. Like once you really just sit with it for a minute, like the stories are really great. So I like country music too. And on commentary, they said that Nikki Nashville's, gear kind of pays tribute to Loretta Lynn, with a vibe of Casey Musgraves. And I do like Casey Musgraves too, because there was one song she made that I really like called Justified. I heard it on the radio once and I was just like, I like this song. So yeah, like, and then I love Taylor Swift in her country era too. That was cool. So, they also mentioned that Nikki Nashville grew up in Ohio, played volleyball, and got into bodybuilding while she was in college. And she's a graduate of the University of Alabama at Tuscaloosa, aka Roll Tide. So that was really cool to hear about too. So Miss Ma'am is country girl for real, for real. So yeah, this was really fascinating. Nikki Nashville, I can't wait to get to know her a little bit more. But as far as the match was concerned, she actually shocked Fury in the beginning by lifting Fury into a body slam. And then in the midst of trying to like show off a bit, Fury did not take that lightly as the veteran in the match. She actually struck her up and basically proceeded to hit and smack and backhand Nikki Nashville as if she was just trying to just destroy her. And then she gave clubbing blows to the back of Nikki and she locked her in the headbanger's ball on the rope. And as Nikki kept trying to fight back, she got tripped up and flatlined into a Koji clutch. And the only way she was able to get out of that clutch from Fury was through a rope break. But in the midst of everything, Nikki hit an elbow and a clothesline, and then she hit a kick, a belly to back suplex, and then hit a really impressive jackhammer, of course, a la Goldberg, for a 3 count. So Nikki Nashville wound up winning her debut match on WoW. So big ups to her, big ups to the country girl, beating out some rock and roll up in here. I thought that was really cool. And she's really beautiful, and I just can't wait to see more of what she has to offer on WoW. This debut was really good, and for her to debut against someone as well traveled and as experienced as Fury was really, brave. I thought that was really cool. So Nikki came out with the win here, and maybe we'll see her have like a collaboration with a country artist at some point. I don't know. We'll see, but yeah, this was cool. So, match number 3 was Top Tier versus Tiki Chamorro, Kalaki the Island Girl, and Sandy Shore in a non title trios match. And of course, because Top Tier are the WoW Trios champions, they are just out here just not taking any of the girls seriously at this point. They're threatening them. Coach gets on the microphone before this match and says, you know, our next opponents, Tiki, Island Girl, Kalaki, and Sandy Shore. I hope those beach bums don't think they're going on vacation because they're about to step in the ring with Top Tier, the greatest and most dangerous team in pro wrestling. We are more dangerous than shark infested waters. And then Crush chimed in and said, we'll chew you up and spit you out. Let's go. And then Coach said, and after that, maybe we'll go on vacation on David McLean's dime. And then Nigel, even though David was trying to be the voice of reason, Nigel was just trying to get them away and say, look, maybe they should go on vacation for a month or two. And that bothers me because I'm like, no, if top tier goes on vacation, then that means no one can take the trios titles off of them. And I am bound to determine that before this summer ends or before even this year ends, somebody is going to take the trios titles off of top tier. Somebody has to. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. They got to do it. But what I will say is this. In this matchup here, Tiki Chamara really got bucked with Coach Campanelli towards the beginning of the match. She was tossing her about, she was knocking her out and everything. And I'm just like, first of all, Coach, where did all that big talk go where you were talking about how you're the most dangerous team in WoW and how you're the leader? But yet Tiki Chamara is up in here destroying you in the first few minutes of this match. Where is it at, girl? And then Crush tags in and she got dragged into a fire miscarry by Island Girl Kalaki. And then Gloria finally tagged in and she got double teamed by Sandy Shore and Kalaki. And then Sandy Shore hit a hammerhead to a 2 count. And this was where the trajectory of the match changed for me because, of course, we're used to seeing Tiki perform well and we're used to seeing Kalaki perform well because she's a veteran as well. But Sandy Shore really did step her game up in these last few episodes, whether it's with Spring Break 24/7 or with this iteration of the Island Girls. Like, she really has been earning her keep as of late, and I think that needs to be discussed more, and it showed a lot in this match. Then Coach pulled Sandy off of the apron as one of the members of top tier distracted the referee, which is basically one of their strongest suits. It's like one member of the team is going to distract the ref while the other one takes advantage of the most vulnerable member of their opposing team, and it is just the worst. Top tier proceeded to take advantage of Sandy and beat up on her and isolate her from her corner, and then Crush wound up and then once Sandy was able to get free, she tagged Tiki in, and I think Crush got tossed into the turnbuckles. And then she tagged once she tagged Tiki in, and then Gloria got tagged in. Tiki headbutted Gloria, and then Gloria thrusted her shoulders and knees into Tiki with a count like 1, 2, 3, like the cardio queen she is. And then she sustained a spear from Tiki afterward. And I was just like, look, this might be the team. This could be the team right here. Because even though they might not have like the best strategy in terms of like how to facilitate their numbers well, they really did have like the power, the woman power in order to take top tier down. And I appreciate that. And then once Kalaki got back into action, she went wild on every member of top tier, tossing every member out of the ring, throwing them about, slamming them, punching them, kicking them, all of the things. And then she got planted onto the ring post, and Sandy got slammed by two members of top tier, and they wound up winning this non-title match. So of course, top tier proceeds to show off their dominance, and then they went backstage with Sibley Skulls and yelled at the microphone, telling everyone that they're still the champions and that they're still the greatest team in all of professional wrestling. And it's so annoying. I'm just so aggravated with them. I'm just ready for a team to really step their game up and take those titles off of them. I'm just really tired of them because it's like they take a perverse pleasure in not only defeating their opponents, but also trying to break them down and hurt them. And it's just like, bro, like, can you relax? Can y'all chill out and not be so vicious? But they've adopted that into their personality now, and it's just like I feel like it's really going to take a team to treat them the way that they treat others in order to get those titles off of them and knock them down a peg. I don't know, but ugh, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. So after this, we got a promo from the then Wild World Champion, Classmaster, and Samantha Smart. Um, before the main event, and Samantha comes out and says, "You all are unbelievably annoying. Have you seen our opponents begging for a taste of greatness like dogs at a dinner table? That's okay because we are smarter than them, smarter than you, and smarter than everybody." And that was the end of their time. So, of course, they announced this match for this weekend, which was going to be um, Tormenta versus the Classmaster for the Wild World Championship. Um, that episode is still airing this weekend, but of course, later on this week, hopefully, me and Katrina will reunite so we can discuss what happened in that match because, oh my gosh, some things happened in that match, and I'm really excited about it. But of course, we have to go to the main event of Nashville Knockout, which was Princess Aussie versus Paola Mayfield, which actually it wasn't Princess Aussie versus Paola Mayfield because Paola made her entrance with Abilene Maverick in a neck brace, and she claimed that she was injured from Tormenta's Meteora, and she wanted to make a motion to have that move banned because of the last time they were in that fatal four-way to determine who the number one contender was going to be. Abilene claimed that um, Paola was definitely hurt from it, but she found a replacement to face Princess Aussie, and it was Genesis, who also participated in that fatal four way. So we had another match between the two Aussie queens, and um, I feel like I've almost talked about them to death because they've faced off against each other so many times in this iteration of WoW that it's just kind of like they're low key, and I don't mean this in an insulting way. They're almost like the Randy Orton and John Cena of WoW. It's like they always find a way to fight each other no matter what the circumstances are. Or they're like the John Cena and Edge of WoW because it's like no matter what happens, they always find their way back to each other. But you'll never get a bad match out of them ever. So, in this match, it seemed like Genesis was, of course, acting like she, had the upper hand because the last time they faced each other, I think Genesis won. But Aussie, of course, proceeded to beat up on Genesis with a roundhouse kick. Genesis chopped and choked Aussie out, and she got tossed into the turnbuckles in the midst of this. Aussie hit a backbreaker and belly to back suplex for a 2 count. Then she locked in a submission that kind of put you in the mind of a crossface, except it wasn't a crossface, and I don't have the proper term for it right now. Yeah, that's what was going on. And she locked her arm in there. And Genesis tried to escape and she wound up not reaching the bottom rope, but she got cagey and bit Princess Aussie's hand. And it was really wild. It made everybody go crazy on commentary, especially Abilene and and Paola. And Abilene was like, I think I'm beginning to like Genesis because she did that. And then Genesis kicked Aussie down and then hit an X choke to her and a backbreaker for a 2 count. But as the girls climbed up the top turnbuckle, they both fought and traded punches. And then Princess Aussie tossed Genesis off of the top rope and then hit her famous frog splash for the 1, 2, 3, and Princess Aussie won the match. And that was a really nice and peppy way to end that episode because Princess Aussie is one of my favorites, and I'm so happy to see her um, finally get an upper hand. This was really cool. I enjoyed this match very much, and that was basically the end of Nashville Knockout. We got to see a successful debut from a WoW superhero. We got to hear the trash talk of top tier, and in the last episode, we had a hardcore match for the tag titles. And of course, this weekend, if you have not watched it already, we have a world title match to look forward to. So, thank you guys so much for watching me in this double dose episode of Steph and Cat Talk Wow. Here again, I want to apologize for how late this episode is because life has been lifing. I've been trying to recover from my trip to Atlanta for Evolution while also working at the same time. Everything has just been thrown into a loop, and I'm really just trying to recover. And of course, Katrina's been out of town and busy with her things as well for media. So I am so sorry for how late this is. But thank you guys so much for sticking with me and being supportive. And I just really wanted to do this episode because in the past couple of weeks, we've seen women's wrestling thrive and be excellent in spite of various circumstances. And it was very important for me to continue, going on with this show while also celebrating women's wrestling on the other end of things because I just love it so, 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 so much. Um, and in loving women's wrestling, I just here again want to give a shout out to Katrina because her panel at Florida SuperCon was all about women running the world of wrestling, and I just really thought it was really cool that she had that in Florida, even though I hate that I wasn't able to be a part of it this time. I'm just so very proud of her and everything that she is doing to give women the opportunity to speak about their experiences in wrestling, good and bad, and also, showing all the ways in which they're trying to make wrestling better for women as a whole. And I'm forever proud of Katrina for being one of those women who is making that level of change in her own unique and original way, while also juggling so many things, being an author, being a super mom, being my co-host for this, and so many other different things. So, Katrina, I love you down, sis. I'm so proud of you, and I always am happy to go with you to the end of the line, my girl. And of course, I have to, since this is my first time being on screen since this has happened, I just wanted.
Hey Naomi, Stephanie Hardy at the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and Daily BBT. My question for you is, on your Titantron, on your caution tape, there are words that say undervalued, third wheel, and underappreciated. How do you feel this moment speaks to those who have felt like that? And how do you feel that validates you and validates other women who feel that they have been overlooked constantly?
I think it speaks volumes, and I think that's why so many are connecting with this journey that I'm on and where I am right now. I think whether it's wrestling or real life, I think we all experience moments or times in our life where we don't feel appreciated, we don't feel loved, we don't feel seen, we don't feel valued, and sometimes you have to adjust. You can't keep doing the same thing expecting a different result. Sometimes you have to.
So, of course, if you follow me on social media, you know that last weekend was Evolution, and I was able to participate in the press conference and ask Naomi a question after she had cashed in her Money in the Bank briefcase on Io Sky to become the new Women's World Champion. Um, like I said, this is my first time being on screen and discussing it. I've verbalized and put into words how grateful I am for that opportunity for, WWE and everything, but I haven't had to really gotten to really speak on it in a public way. Um, I've watched this clip 1,000 times since it's happened. I'm very proud of that moment. It's a moment that I've manifested for a long time. Um, every time I have a tendency to like think about dream people I could ask a question to or interview, it's always, more black women in wrestling. And the fact that I got to do that with someone who paved the way for so many of the newer women, black female superstars that we see in wrestling, like Naomi, like Trinity, depending on where you were introduced to her at, um, it has been mesmerizing. It's been humbling and it's just been really great. And I'm just really proud to have had that opportunity. I'm so grateful that I prayed a prayer and asked God, I was like, look, Lord, I want to use my voice here. Can you please, just, if it's meant for me to use my voice here, let me use it. And He answered my prayer tenfold for that. And I'm really grateful for every person that has commented on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, and everything, all your kind words. I saw one comment on TikTok that says she's going to show this clip to her daughter when she gets older so she'll know. Um, so she can be taught how to make people respect her when people aren't treating her as well. And I'm just really happy that it's hitting people in all of the right ways. So, as a budding journalist, I want to be a person that asks questions that matter to people and ask questions that matter to the talent in wrestling. And I'm just really, really thrilled and happy that I got that opportunity. Um, on a level of wrestling that I have always appreciated and loved, which is women's wrestling. Like, it feels like it was just 13 years ago. I was just talking about, I was in college and just wondering, when are the women really going to fight? Like, when is this going to happen? And even though it had happened previously, for me in my young life, I had yet to see it. So the idea that I got to be a part of the second iteration of this, of Evolution, while also, creating a platform that bigs up the women all the time, is something that's going to live with me until the day I die, and even after that point. So, um, I thank all of you so much for your love and for all the nice comments you've given. And the elevation continues, but I am basking, I'm resting and basking in the idea that the hard work that I am putting in is not going to waste at all. And I just love that moment, and I'm so grateful for it. And I'm just so happy for WoW. I'm happy for women's wrestling as a whole, and I just hope to continue to be a sensible and credible voice for women to actually, say what they want to say and get it out in a way that actually speaks to the humanity of them and not just to the athleticism too. So, thank you, thank you, thank you guys so much. So, of course, if you want to follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, you can follow me at Queen Steph Hardy on Instagram and on Twitter. Follow the Hardy Wrestling Podcast on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod. Listen to the show everywhere you listen to podcasts like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're getting close to 500 subscribers, so please, please, please subscribe. Share any clips that you might see that I might share of any one of these shows. And just continue to support your girl and also read all my articles on Daily DDT. I'm working on some more things. And it might be a minute before I go back outside and do stuff like I did at Evolution, but um, I've been going hard since the end of January this year, and I just need some rest. So yeah, thank you guys so much for riding with me and supporting me and shower me with encouragement and love, because I'm just trying to ride this wave and it's just blossomed into something that I never imagined. So thank you guys so much. So this has been Steph and Cat Talk Wild, brought to you by the Hardy Wrestling Podcast and In Cat We Trust. And until next time, support women's wrestling, support WOW, and just love and support each other. And enjoy TNA Slammiversary, because I know that's happening right now. Bye, y'all.